Hi everyone, it's Monday the 27th of June. I thought I would jump on today and just do a bit of a support video, I think. There's big things happening at the moment, particularly in the United States right now. So there's a lot of emotional stuff out there in the quantum field, and it's pretty hard to not run into just in, even on your social media feed. So I thought I would just be here in this space and offer some support. Let's see, what Cancer season here is bringing. Let's see if we can find some perspective on things and some support. I think support is important for us right now at times like these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull 3 cards today to see what kind of support we can pull in, anchor into, as everyone is sort of navigating these changes. So today I have a selection of cards out in front of me. I'm using here the Light Seers Tarot by Chris and Donnelly. I hope I said that right. So I'm going to pull 3 from this deck. We've got our first one, the Ace of Swords. Yeah, okay. I'll explain these as when I've pulled them all, but Ace of Swords is our first one out. This could take a while. I wait for jumpers, but I don't take multiples. That's my tarot process. Okay. We have the Page of Pentacles. Interesting. Okay. And then last one, and we'll look at the bottom of the deck to see, what the overarching theme is, what this all sort of pivots around. Here we go. What have we got there? Okay, Judgment reversed. Okay. And at the bottom of the deck we have, the Hanged Man reversed. Yeah, I think that's pretty apt. Okay. So the first thing I really want to say is, here with this Hanged Man here, is that this is probably something that's going to take us quite a while to move through. That's not a bad thing. This is a process of refinement. Okay. This is where we get to go through a process of seeing things from a very holistic point of view. And then we have to figure out where those things fit with our values. Obviously, I know that that's sort of already been in the play, but with things as they are, it's really going to trigger a lot of people going into a state of, I don't know what to do with this. Okay. First of all, what we have here is the Ace of Swords. And as you can see, there's this beautiful light shining through, highlighting something. It's a revelation of some sort coming through. I tend to think of this as a download. If you're claircognizant, you'll understand what that means. But it's when something just falls in and opens up, I guess, a view or a perspective that maybe we hadn't seen before. This is a seed. All aces are a seed of something. Okay, so a beginning, even though it probably feels like an end. All ends are beginnings, so this is not the end. That may be a comforting thought. This is higher consciousness. We see this spiral, and this spiral really, really, really helps us to refine certain stances, I guess we could say, our stance on things. Because we come back to things that we feel we have dealt with. We come back to things from a different angle, and we start to see it from a new angle. And that really shines a lot of light on the bigger picture, as opposed to just really being a very small picture about an event or something that is happening. This is much bigger. So yeah, I see this as a process of refinement. The Page of Pentacles here. This is really interesting because the page is new to this. And look, the page has 1 foot on the ground. Grounding is probably a little bit tricky for this page. You know, sometimes they're grounded, sometimes they're not. And this, to me, the Pentacles is all about what's happening in our physical reality. Okay, so that can be with our physical bodies. It can be with our physical resources. It can be money. It can be time. But this page here is really learning something new. It's an applied, I want to say, module from the Divine University of Life. And we're working it out, trying to find our sure footing. Yeah, this pentacle that this page holds here is a value. You know, because we all have different sets of values. Some of them we connect with. But every person here is a collection of unique values. And I'd be very hard pressed to say that any two people have the exact same values. So there is going to be conflict, and there is going to be challenges when we are trying to live, work, come together as a society, because we each have different values, we each have different needs. And we're figuring out how to stand in those. We're really getting clear on what those things are that we value. For a lot of us, that can feel quite murky right now. For a lot of us, it will be really clear. So yeah, this is, again, the beginning of that module. I like to think of us as in a classroom. We have an experience where we take what we think we know and we learn how to apply it in the real world. And it can be tricky. It can be really tricky. This Judgment card here in reversed. For me, the Judgment card is, I know people say it's second chances. It kind of is. It is an opportunity to really be clear on where, you know, the timeline you want, on where we're heading, essentially. You can see here in this image, it's like the consciousness, the soul of the body is trying to depart. But this is, for those of you who are familiar with the ascension process, this is the process of ascension. It's like we are being pulled up to see that bigger picture, but we're also here having a very real experience, a very real experience that is emotional. It can be triggering. It can be a really hard thing to experience. You know, we all have our thoughts and opinions, our strong convictions. And sometimes it can be really hard when those are being challenged. But maybe we don't have the full picture yet. Maybe we have had a half view of the picture, or maybe we have had a view of the picture from one angle, but there are multiple angles. And, you know, we're living in a time where compassion is really necessary. Compassion is a big thing at the moment because we're having some really hard experiences right now as human beings. As soul beings, you know, this stuff could be very trivial. This stuff could be, it's easy to glaze over and say, oh, well, you know, this isn't part of the big picture. But as embodied beings living that out in the real world, there is struggle. And a lot of the time there are things we need to let go of. There are hurts we need to let go of. There are past experiences that we are still dealing with. And new experiences can compound those. So here we have the Judgment card in reverse, because if we look at this guy in reverse, we have a struggle. And it's okay. You know, it's okay. Things hurt. Things do hurt. And it's okay to acknowledge that they hurt. It's okay to say, you know, I'm not doing well. I'm having a hard time staying grounded with what is happening here with this page. You know, that's okay. It's okay to struggle. I think we forget that it is okay to have an experience, and it's allowed to take as long as it needs to take. You know, we don't want it to. We want things to just be done, but sometimes that process takes a long time. So I'm going to pull a few of my words as I do. Do you struggle with patience like me? I struggle. I have struggled my whole life with patience. I'm a Taurus and I'm supposed to be patient and I struggle. I struggle to wait that process out. So the first word we have here is, oh, I can't even see it. Disconnection. Yeah. Disconnection. Okay. Yeah, so disconnection, I think that shows up here, right? It's when our emotions take center stage and we're not able to tap into that higher perspective. And in fact, we'll reject that higher perspective because we need to have that emotional experience. You know, it feels important to us. It feels extremely valid. It feels extremely justified. So it's okay to have that experience and to be gentle with yourself while you're having that experience. It's not about being right and it's not about being wrong. It's about being human. And it's about allowing ourselves the right to our own humanity and to have that experience without judgment. We don't need to judge ourselves for the experiences that we're having. Because really, how much control do you have over that? Okay, I'm going to read that. Oh, was that upside down? Let's try that again. Archetype. Okay, so for those of you familiar with archetypes, if you explore archetypes, it's a really fantastic way to do shadow work and explore the subconscious realm. which is the home of our emotions, you know, the things that trigger those emotions. So archetypal energy, exploring those archetypes, exploring what's coming up. You know, are you the protector? Are you feeling victimized? You know, and like I said, all things are valid. All the ways we feel are valid. Are you, you know, what kind of archetype is really coming out in you right now? And to explore that, to do some exploration around that archetype, look into archetypes a little bit further, and be raw and be honest. I journal a lot, and I journal very real, no filters when I journal. And I do that because it is a release, first and foremost. Secondly, it is a way for me to look back on the honest things that are happening inside me. It is a way for me to see some of the stuff that maybe I've been holding. But I can definitely see the archetypes that I'm expressing or tuning into when I'm going through stuff. Archetypal energy is really, really cool. In the way that we can really get a lot of insight from archetypes. And we can embody archetypes. You know, we can consciously choose an archetype to embody as well. Okay, what have we got here? Hopefully it's up the right way. Let me see. This says triangle. Okay. So if you are familiar with sacred geometry, maybe that's something to really explore with triangle. I really love this deck because there's a lot of symbology in here. You'll see that we've got runes floating about in the water here. I actually, yeah, is it water? Is it air? You know, for the sake of Cancer season, we can say it is water. Reaching down, we know that Odin, the mythology, the Norse mythology, Odin hung from the world tree and received the runes while he was hanging there. And runic energy is really, really powerful if you look into that. But yeah, and I like this as well. The spiral is also speaking to me of sacred geometry here. What else do I get from this? I feel like there is an insight, there is a revelation coming through. It is definitely coming through if it hasn't already come through. A new insight to things. A higher perspective. Yeah, a higher perspective on the things that are happening for us at the moment. And if we can tune into what that higher perspective is, certainly not immediately. There's no rush to find what that is. This is not a call to bypass any of the emotions that you're having, any of the hard stuff that's coming up, and in a bid to escape. We're not trying to do that, okay? There is a process that needs to be had, and it's going to start with this revelation. And we are going to be very good students, okay? And even when we're not good students, so be it. Who here fights with the advice they get? Me. Who here is stubborn? Me. Are we allowed to have that experience? Yes. Yes, we are. It takes time. It takes time to go through the whole process. So, you know, you've got to be the apprentice first. You've got to be the apprentice first. And you work your way up until finally you make your way down to the King of Pentacles, who has had all the experience. But we have to start somewhere. It feels like this is a new, I don't want to say it's a new course. It's a new course, but it's an expansion on something, somewhere we've already been. Okay? We're just learning it from a different aspect, a different angle. You know, perhaps with the triangle here, there are 3 sides to this story. Maybe there's a side we've completely overlooked. Maybe there is far more than 3 sides. I am going to pull, I love these cards. So this is, this deck was bought for me by my beautiful soul sister Lorraine a few years ago. And these are the Divine Guidance they're an Australian company, Affirmations publishing house. So I'm going to pull one of these for us today, just to see what comes through. These can be really supportive, which is why I really enjoy them. Yeah. This doesn't feel like a good way to do things, but what is happening now has another purpose. That is what I'm getting, okay? What is happening now has another bigger purpose. So, there we go. I'm going to read that. Do not attempt to safeguard the current situation, for it will be disrupted anyway. Instead, try to face honestly what is before you. Okay, so do not attempt to safeguard the current situation, for it will be disrupted anyway. Instead, try to face honestly what is before you. Honestly, what is before you. Okay, this is our work to do. The last hangman situation that I was in lasted at least 6 months. It took me a long time to work through that and to find my peace with things and acceptance for things. And when I accepted them right about the time where I felt forced to accept them, so it took longer because I'm stubborn and I had a lot of resistance, so I don't want to accept them as they were. So it did take me a long time. It took me at least 6 months before I came to the point where I was able to let go of what I was holding on to and resisting. And then when I was able to do that, things moved really quickly. But there was a whole lot of stuff I learned while I was here. I learned mercy for myself, and kindness for myself for what I was going through, that I wasn't doing things perfectly, judgments I felt were upon me. A lot happens while we're in here. There is these runes here basically indicate talismans that we receive while we are in this space that we didn't expect to receive. And then when we realize we have received them and we accept them openly, then it's like we have this transcendent experience where we're able to transcend the limitations of the material world from a higher perspective. but it takes time. It takes working through those emotions. It takes working through our stuff. It takes honesty with ourselves. I fought a lot of honesty with myself. Okay, that was really, really hard. That's another reason it took so long. A lot of the time it is hard giving ourselves permission to feel things that don't align with who we want to be, you know, and to say, it's okay, this is who I am, this is how I'm moving through it, this is my experience, it's not where I'm going to stay, but this is where I am now. So I really love that. She's in a state of suspension, and it takes a while to let ourselves. Suspension requires a certain amount of trust and a feeling of safety. And if you do not feel like that is available to you, or that if you let go, something bad's going to happen, right? Something, you know, a situation is going to get worse, or if we have all those kind of feelings and thoughts, it is hard to go into the state where we just relax back. But we can get there. We can get there. It just takes time. And so we allow ourselves the process. We allow ourselves the right to have the journey without judging ourselves for having that journey in the first place. So that was our reading today. It would be really interesting, I think, you know, once we have our period of disconnection where we're feeling the struggle and we're feeling the pain and we're feeling all the things we feel when we're disconnected from the truth of the soul, because the puzzle pieces are missing, essentially. It's almost like a broken pathway, so we can't connect with it immediately. So we have this disconnection. But the archetypes can lead us. Exploring the archetypes can lead us to finding those connections. It definitely did for me. In the last, you know, my last hangman experience, I was there for 6 months, and I felt justified. I felt victimized. I felt a whole world of things that I knew, theoretically knew, probably weren't of my highest being, but you know, once I was releasing all that stuff, getting it out, and then I could see it for what it was, it helped me to process it. It was really therapeutic. I think the hardest thing was, you know, there's a point there where you get stuck in it. There is a point there where it feels like you are stuck in the mud, and trying to get yourself out of that mud can be a real, it requires discipline. It requires a lot of fortitude and discipline. And we get to a space where we've, I guess, recouped enough to be able to have that discipline. But first we have the emotional experience. First we have the nervous system dysregulation. First we have the feeling justified for how we're feeling. And all your feelings are valid. They're all valid. It's really just our judgment on those feelings that stops us from allowing ourselves to feel them and release them. So they are all valid, but if they don't align with who you think you are, or the identity you have of yourself, the idea you have of yourself, it can be really hard to accept them. So yeah, it does take time, and it's time well spent though. It is time well spent because we learn a lot about who we are. we learn a lot of compassion, we learn a lot of mercy. We learn, once we've learned those things about who we are, then we have a lot more acceptance of those things in other people because we've had that experience, and so we can see where they're coming from. So yeah, do not attempt to safeguard the current situation. Just, let go, surrender it, ease into it as much as you're able to. And then that process will have a really, I can't say that it's going to, the process is going to be smooth or it's going to be fast, because everybody's different, but it will definitely take a lot of the struggle out and flow a lot better if we can just find that way to do those things in small steps and in small increments. We want to fight, don't we? We want to fight, and it's not that the fight is not, it's not that the fight is wrong, it's that there are certain ways that are more effective, I guess, than fighting with all guns blazing, I guess. We find more effective means of coming back together. Reconnecting with ourselves helps us to reconnect with others, helps us to reconnect with the all that is. So, yeah. But we find our own way through that murk and that mud. So I hope that was helpful for you. Obviously we're all going to have varied opinions. We've all got varied values. We've all got differences, but the one thing we have in common is our humanity. It's the one thing we have in common. So if we can find our common ground there, that we're all having hard feelings, we're all afraid, we're all feeling unsafe, we're all challenged. And if we connect through that, then I think we have a better chance of understanding one another than attack and defense. But we're human, so even when we falter to attack and defense, we have to be able to hold that space for ourselves and each other, because that is part of our human experience while we are here. I really hope that was helpful. If we, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please, though, in light of the emotion that is out there at the moment, please keep comments respectful, particularly when engaging with one another. Okay, that's really important. Coming together is really important than standing apart. We don't all have to agree on the same things, but we can all understand each other from a human perspective if we can all just sort of anchor into the emotional experience of it. So I would love to hear what you think, and my heart goes out to everybody today.